Coming up next on Tech News Today, Expedia's CEO might soon be Uber's CEO. Fitbit unveiled its long-awaited smartwatch. Microsoft is lowering its hardware requirements for mixed reality and crowdsourcing the mapping of the opioid epidemic. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1841, recorded Monday, August 28th, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit. Yeah.
And welcome to Tech News Today. If you're just listening, then you missed the flag that flew across our faces.
That's our brand new transition that we're going to use every single time we take a new camera.
Because we love America.
That's right.
I am Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howard. We're here to talk about tech news today, though,
okay,
right?
Let's do that.
I think so. If Josh, who's our TD today, can work on a tech news transition, like maybe like Windows flying across the screen in an old school kind of Microsoft Windows sort of way, that would be cool. You remember that old screensaver?
I remember it.
Why isn't that a transition?
Or flying toasters.
Yes, flying toasters. See, we're giving you ideas here, Josh.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure it out, we're going to have to find someone else. Just kidding. Thank you for joining us. We've had a lot. He's like, I quit. We've had a lot of long national nightmares. But the one involving Uber's search for a new CEO appears to be over. One national nightmare down. Thank you, Josh. Many more to go. The replacement for Travis Kalanik, according to many sources, is likely to be Dara Khosrowshahi. Not an easy last name to say, but I'm working on it. CEO of Expedia since 2005, who's grown that property from $2.1 billion in 2005 to $8.7 billion in 2016. Recode first posted about the pick based on its sources Sunday evening, but as of now, no official confirmation has been made by Uber about Dara's hiring. However, there was a letter that was sent to Expedia employees by Expedia chair Barry Diller that confirms that Dara has been asked to do so, though nothing is finalized yet. So we've got that at least. And then even more sources saying Dara is scheduled to address Uber employees in an all-hands meeting in the next day or two. So who the heck knows? But it really seems like things are, it's zeroing in on Dara at this point.
I hope he told his wife. Like, that's the only thing that, because it'd be like upsetting for her to find that out.
Oh, by the way,
yeah.
Something happened today at work.
So Ben Thompson, who always has interesting takes on the news at Stratechery and commonly on Twit, he says he describes him as stable, successful, and well compensated. So they're going to have to pay him a lot to come over. Some sources say $200 million. But they hired Anthony Lewandowski, who got them into, he was the one that allegedly stole a bunch of stuff from Google. They paid him $250 million. So I would want to be paid more than that.
Yeah, you want to at least get more than that guy.
That stole files from Google. But I mean, the board of directors at Uber is very divided, and that's a problem that he's going to have to fix right away. Jeffrey Immelt, he was the second place. He didn't have enough support at the last minute, and of course Meg Whitman also was in the running.
Right, yeah, and we'd heard about that probably like a month ago or whatever, so it's been all over the place. Dara worked for the USA Networks, now IAC, back in '98. That company was acquired majority stake in Expedia from Microsoft in 2001, and that's when Dara took the leadership role. So when Ben Thompson says he's stable, I mean, he worked in this role for a very long time, saw the company through 20 critical M&As in that time: Orbitz, Travelocity, HomeAway. Also, to know about Expedia was part of the complaint that led to the European Commission issuing the $2.7 billion fine against Google for antitrust violations. So they have that in common, right? Google being kind of like a common enemy. So at least he comes in and, has a history of feuding with Google as well.
Here's why I think he's going to be really successful. Margot Graby tweeted this earlier, Josh. I think you probably have this tweet. in there. That's a picture of Dara and Jeff Bezos. They seem to have the same fashion sense, both wearing vests, bald, glasses.
And they're both walking in front of the same trees, apparently.
Apparently. Yeah, so apparently all you need is to be bald, wear a vest, and have
some
glasses.
guns.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if Dara has guns. I'd have to see his guns.
Yeah. Well, I saw a few other pictures. He's got guns on display.
Okay,
it's a gun show, basically.
Good. All right. I'm glad we got that covered.
Look, hey, it's part of the requirements for CEOs nowadays.
Yeah,
Apparently, they
so.
need to have guns.
I don't know. I
and be bald.
apologize if that was sexual harassment on our part too, Dara. Sorry. Fitbit has a new smartwatch, the $300 Ionic. It's water resistant up to 50 meters and includes built-in GPS and heart rate monitoring. The company also announced new 4130 Flyer in-ear wireless headphones to use with the device on your runs. Like the iPhone, Fitbit is 10 years old, but arguably not quite as popular. What do you think of the look of this watch?
Yeah,
this smartwatch.
I'm realizing that we don't have a picture of the watch in that Venture Beat, so maybe if Josh can find that. It's an aluminum body design. It has a slight kind of rounding of the display.
But it's not round.
No. It's not a round display.
Round.
Curve, let's put it that way. Kind of a curved display. They're saying that it's viewable in direct sunlight. It has really bright 1,000 nits. I don't know. It looks okay. I mean, the design is very meh to me, to be honest. It looks all right.
It looks like
Nothing
the Surge, it doesn't. It just looks like the old one, except it has color.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, there
we
it
go.
is.
There's
that's
the Ionic.
its promo picture. But if you look at it, like the bands are what's ugly, I think, about it. Now, those pictures on the Fitbit website make it look a lot better than on the reviewers' websites.
You know what it reminds me of now that I'm looking at it like this? It really reminds me of a Pebble, which, I mean, Fitbit acquired Pebble, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But it kind of has that kind of, I don't know, like Pebble really reveled in the idea that it kind of had an old school look to it. You know what I mean? They never spruced it up to try and make it look as modern as some of the other watches out there. I kind of get the same vibe from this.
Like it's a calculator watch?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like it very much feels, or at least looks kind of that era.
Right, like all of us that wore the calculator watches when we were in middle school, we now are ruling the world. Yeah,
but we hate it because we had it back when we were young and we're like, seriously? It's like bell bottoms coming back. Seriously? I already did that. Burke says huge logo. Yes, we are. I don't know. Are you a big fan of big logos on your devices? He shakes his head. No, I would agree. When you're emblazoning and that's not a very large device to begin with, so you're taking up space with the logo. I don't know. It looks okay. I think Fitbit, it really seems like this has been expected for a while, that they were going to release a smartwatch. They're coming out now instead of later because later ties into your next story, I believe, in a couple of stories here, Apple on the horizon. And so they need to get out ahead of any Apple news that's about to happen. And no matter how you slice it, that's a challenge for Fitbit because they've got to prove why them versus the major competitor, which is Apple. Yeah, that's the question I also have. Why you, Fitbit? I mean, I tried the Surge and it was fine. I mean, yeah, I like my Apple Watch. Yeah, and how does this set itself apart? They're going to have a third-party app platform to be ready at launch, they say, thanks to Fitbit OS, which is the OS that's running on this device. 2.5 gigs of onboard storage for music, around 300 songs, 4 days of battery life. If they can actually hit 4 days of battery life in normal use, that's actually a really big deal. Because I think smartwatches, we've gotten used to a lot less than that. They say also 10 hours with GPS running, which would also be, pretty impressive if you're doing 10 hours of tracking with GPS on that small wearable. So, well, I would like to try one and test it on my next 10-hour run. Yes, exactly. On your next marathon, make sure you're wearing that. Which takes about 10 hours, by the way, for me to run a marathon. Then it's important that they hit that number, I guess. So we'll see. If you aren't at the finish line by the time your watch dies, you just might as well quit and walk away. Microsoft is revealing more details on its upcoming Windows 10 Fall Creators Update that will officially usher in the era of the company's mixed reality efforts. The company announced a new entry-level tier that bypasses the need for high-end graphics cards to power the experience. Ultrabook and low-end PCs in the $499 range with standard Intel HD graphics cards will too be able to partake thanks to a simple HDMI and USB 3.0 connection in place of all the wall-mounted sensors. So this is kind of like a step down. The goal, of course, is that Microsoft wants to do for VR what it did with personal computing by making it affordable, so even those on basic setups can get in on it. And not only that, Microsoft announced a partnership with Steam VR, meaning access to a wide variety of titles from Steam that can already be found on competing VR platforms. So again, lowering the bar for people who are interested in trying out VR and AR, and in Microsoft's case, they like to call that mixed reality.
But it's basically a VR headset that's inside out, like.
Yeah, and I mean, also it has forward-facing cameras, if I'm not mistaken, for pass-through video for each eye. So, you know, because Microsoft kind of started in this game with HoloLens, and that was really all about AR, and now they're kind of integrating both into a headset. You can kind of see on the front of those headsets the little dots. Those are like pass-through cameras. One for each eye, so stereoscopic pass-through cameras. And you can probably do a lot with fusing kind of the real world with the virtual world and get some nice AR effects with that. But what they're announcing right here really seems focused on kind of, hey, we can do VR too, and that's a big part of our plan, and we're going to drive down the price and the requirements in order to get in on that.
So the headset is about $399, $499 with the controllers, right?
So I was seeing $299 for general support starting, $399 for starting with controllers, but Dell has the visor that they were showing off, which in October sometime was going to be $349 to get in on that. If you want to get that with a controller bundle, $449. But I think in general, like, you know, they're going the third-party route. Like, everybody can make their own headsets. Prices are probably going to vary wildly as a result of that. So probably as low as $299. There'll probably be a lot in the $399 range, and then, you know, higher with bundled controllers. And doesn't that just look awesome? That last one, especially with it propped up. This is your normal look. Like, let me get out of this so it isn't weird and we can talk face to face.
Yeah, I think
you pop it up like that.
I could see that for everyday wear. Absolutely.
Everyday wear.
That makes that Fitbit Ionic look really good.
Yeah,
actually.
This is your I'm riding the subway look.
Okay, so $499 is around the price of the PC to power this.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
that's not that much lower than like a PC that you'd need to power an Oculus. Isn't that like $599 or $699?
Well, I think they're all kind of lowering the requirements for meeting that range, because there are a lot of people that either already have computers at that price point, or just in general, a lot of people that would be interested in playing around with this, but aren't interested in dropping $1,000, $1,500 for a high-end PC and a very expensive graphics card to load in there to support it. So it's just about lowering the barriers.
So they're going to show this off at IFA, which stands for something German that Jason told me before, but I can't repeat it. But Addie Robertson from The Verge got to play with it beforehand, and she said the controllers work just like the Oculus controllers, but without the camera. So Oculus controllers have cameras inside them, and then that's what I don't really understand how this
I don't
works.
know if the Oculus Touch controllers have cameras inside the controllers, not from my experience. Maybe she's talking about the room cameras that come with an Oculus
so you don't
the tracking system.
Cameras. Okay,
right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Sources at the Wall Street Journal say Apple will hold their fall event on September 12th, where they will announce 3 new smartphones and a new smartwatch. Among the most popular rumors we're hearing is no bezels, advanced facial recognition, and wireless charging. People briefed on the plan say the event will be held in the 1,000-seat Steve Jobs Theater at Apple's new campus. The devices usually go on sale around 10 days after the annual event. This happens around the first week in September every year. 10 days later, we get to actually think about buying one, wait in line, call, have someone tell us that the color that we wanted is not available, that sort of thing. Some consumer researchers say the rumored price will be $1,000, and that's going to scare some people away, and that people will opt out of that and get the iPhone 7 or the 7 Plus instead, which will range around $650 and $750. Or maybe they'll just, I don't know, keep the phone they currently have.
Yeah, that's also an option.
It is.
No, it's an option we forget because we're so used to, the bigger, better, faster, whatever, upgrade right away.
And the watch is supposed to have an LTE cellular chip in it so you can make phone calls from your watch and do a few other things without your phone right next to it. And, this has been rumored for a while. And Leo's big thing is like, that's how, we've seen watches that do that before. But they were round and ugly, and they weren't an Apple Watch. So I think this will be different.
It'll probably be different. It's got the Apple logo on it, so that's going to move, more than most just based on that fact alone. Again, Fitbit, Ionic, kind of, not looking so good. It's on sale many weeks later, so they're like announcing that today, but it's not to be expected to be for sale until like October sometime. So, you got to get around that obstacle with the Apple logo on it. Note 8 is on sale a week before, so Samsung will get it. And usually that ends up being the case, right? Samsung gets like a week or two before Apple comes in like a vacuum and sucks out all the tech news and ends up making it all about the new iPhones and stuff. But so what do you think? So, I mean, the price, if it starts at $1,000, if more memory is going to push that up to $1,400, I mean, this thing's going to be like encased in glass and put on a golden pedestal in Apple stores, right?
Well, no, I mean that the reason that they'll be out on the counter because Apple knows your psychology. Once you touch something, you're more likely to buy it. That's
true,
why everything's out there. So $1,000, no, and no, very few people are going to be like, here's my bag of money. They're going to say, it's just going to be $35 a month for the rest of your life, and you love it.
You're gonna love it.
And so that's the way they'll get us. I will be interested if it does start at $999 or if that's sort of the mid-range. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably going to start at $1,000 and go up from there. But yeah, that's a lot of money for a phone.
I have a question. I'm just springing this on you.
Yes, spring away.
Someone comes up to you or sends you an email and says, I'm considering getting the Note 8 or the iPhone 8. Which should I get and why?
What are you already using? That's always a really good question, right? If they're already on iOS, then I would recommend get the next iPhone because I think platform matters and ecosystem matters a lot. You have to have a certain reason to be switching from one to the other. A lot of people who would consider getting the Note 8 have very specific reasons for getting it. They might involve the stylus or maybe it's the larger form factor or they just like the look or whatever. So
removable memory? Is there removable memory?
I don't believe that. Well, no, there is. Yeah, no, there absolutely is. That's right. Because part of the pre-order deal is that if you pre-order, you can, as one of your options, get a memory card to throw in there.
And did you?
No, I opted for the Gear 360, the newer Gear 360 with the pre-order. But you can, and I have done that. And I mean, you can boost it insane amounts, and you'll never have any worries about running out of storage on that thing again. So there is more expandability there. But I think my question then is always the first question is, well, what are you using right now? Because that's really a big determinator the determinator of your next phone.
Well, because when I switched to the iPhone, I was using the Samsung Galaxy S3, I think, the 3. And without the removable memory after that, I was like, what, how do you iPhone people live without the and now, it wasn't even something that's really on either one of our radar, that it's something that we really want to do.
There was a time years ago, not too long ago, but I've definitely kind of figured my way out of it where that was an essential. That was like, I need that because that's where I store my music. Now I do so much streaming, it's way less of an issue. And I'll usually opt for the larger storage purchase, as opposed to expandable storage. But it's a really nice feature to have, and a lot of people actually really rely on it a lot for many different reasons. So that could be the thing that pushes you over the edge. Up next, how big data is helping to map the opioid crisis. But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper. They're the sponsor of this episode of Tech News Today. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Grasshopper works just like a traditional phone system, but it requires no hardware purchase because you already have that hardware. With their iOS and Android app, callers reach you wherever you are on the mobile phone you already have. Grasshopper allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand, keep everything cohesive. When you make a call, your client will see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal phone number. You simply select a toll-free or a local number. You can record a custom greeting, even add multiple extensions for your business. And toll-free numbers, of course, when you see a toll-free number, you know that business, it just makes that business sound more professional. So it's great for marketing. It's great for making your business sound that professional too. Setting department and employee extensions with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world, easy to do with Grasshopper. You can get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments. You can also send and receive SMS and text messages from your business number. Join the over 250,000 Grasshopper customers today. Plans start at just $12 per month, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit. And we thank Grasshopper for their support of Tech News Today.
We talk about big data a lot, and a lot of times when we're talking about it, we discuss the darker side of big data. But our guest today is going to talk about how it can be used against us. He has been using how it can be used for us. He's been using GIS and mapping software to create a map that tracks the opioid crisis. Jeremiah Lindeman is a public interest technology fellow at New America. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you're going to show us how to use data for us, not against us. It can be for us.
Right.
So tell us first a little bit about the personal story that you had that got you involved in tracking this crisis.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. So unfortunately, I lost my little brother to the opiate epidemic. It was nearly 10 years ago. JT was my best friend, my best man at my wedding, and a really instrumental part of my life. As you can imagine, talking about you lost someone to drugs is not something I easily talked about. I didn't talk very much about it to people at all for several years, but I started hearing more and more about it on the news and realized, he wasn't alone in this, and really was part of the beginning of this epidemic that you're hearing about on the news every day. So I started to apply my career path of technology and using GIS to help address and really become an advocate for getting awareness about this out.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought about it till I read your story, but it really does seem like there is a stigma. And then looking at your map, which we'll talk about, I just like looking at everyone's story is really, really moving. So you, if you're watching the video, you can see the map right now. You said first that you tried to volunteer, but I think it's amazing how you use skills that you already had to make this map. Tell us a little bit about how it works.
Yeah, so this map is all about, it's called Celebrating Lost Loved Ones. The idea is families come in and they add a family member that's been lost to the opiate epidemic. It's really to break the stigma that is associated with this. I think so easy, you can hear someone maybe respond to the opiate epidemic of, oh, they're just druggies, they made their choice, they deserve to die. And really, for many people that are affected, it's much deeper than that. These are great people that have been lost. And there's a lot of people that are going through this crisis right now that maybe are not seeking treatment, or, there's families not talking about this because of that stigma that's associated with it. So I got started just by meeting, I live in Colorado, meeting some other families in Colorado that were impacted. It kind of started locally, and we just added some stories on a map and kind of turned it into a map that just has spread by some news reports and social media. There's a button where families can go and upload their picture and a biography. For every picture you can click on, you can read a little bio about each person too.
I'm curious to kind of understand a little bit more about GIS and how that's being implemented and used here. What is GIS exactly, and how are you tapping into that for this project?
Sure. So GIS is short for Geographic Information Systems. So you can think about any type of piece of information, and if it has a spatial component, that's what GIS is. It's software that brings that in together so you can start to map it and make decisions about it. So my career has been working for a company called Esri, and primarily helping local governments map their assets and anything that they work with. This is maybe just a slightly different spin on that, and with a different topic.
So you mentioned a little bit about the stigma of this underreporting, that we might, even though we hear a lot about how big this crisis is, how many people and families are affected, that you say that the numbers might actually be underrepresented. Are there other reasons besides just the stigma? What are some of the reasons why people aren't reporting that deaths were involved, that the death was caused by opioids?
Sure. So there's official statistics that, maybe it's the CDC reports that are the official overdose from opiates. But they've actually had a couple reports saying that's far greater than that. And there's a few reasons. One is anytime a death occurs, they're looking at official toxicology reports of the number of drugs that have been in the system. Well, there's some places where if the coroner's report or the autopsy wasn't done in time, maybe the drugs might leave the system. So it's not that official, not meeting that official level of toxicology. There's another report where rural counties are running out of funding to do autopsies. So you're kind of getting this unknown of what's happening. And then there's all these other cases. There's a bigger mental illness umbrella. There's, cases where there's suicides. And those suicides, it may have been opiate related. There may have been a highly contributing factor, or car crashes because someone was in maybe a drug altered state, from these opioids.
And in reading through this, obviously, we're talking about how this is being underreported. How is the data that you're tracking here? I mean, is that different? You're calling upon people to kind of go in there almost in a crowdsourced sort of way and populate this. How is that mechanism adding to to the benefit of this whole progress?
Yeah, so there's really two things. The first is, you described it best. The Celebrating Lost Loved Ones is just a crowdsourcing map. It's about sharing personal stories, getting attention, and really just shining the light on the epidemic more. People are much more inclined to listen to these personal stories, especially in their neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But really, the next phase is, what do we do about the regular data that is maybe reported from governments, and how can we track that better and also put that on a map to see where the problems are?
And tracking will lead to more funding and more. It's leaving my mind right now. The drug that's used to combat addiction, more of that, right?
Correct. Yeah, naloxone. Or Narcan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's basically a drug that can be used to revive an overdose. So yeah, my whole take on this is, if we can start to understand where this is happening, we can start to address it better. We can supply first responders better, and with naloxone, they can see where they are responding to incidents. There's a big need for more treatment. So looking at where treatment facilities are versus where these deaths or maybe responses to naloxone by first responders are happening, we can start to put treatment, and hopefully that funding is going to be coming for more treatment in the right place.
Is there a need for the data to be super up to date? Is there, I don't know, does it lessen the impact or the power of this information for it to be outdated? And is it relatively up to date in your experience?
I believe it's very out of date, and that's something I'd like to see governments tackle more. The general process is a county coroner or medical examiner will record death data. Then it will, at the maybe year end, will go report it to the state. The state will report it to the CDC. So you're seeing these year-end reports from the CDC that really is over a year old. So for first responders or local advocacy groups on the ground, that's not relevant to make any type of decision about placing treatment or doing focused outreach awareness efforts if you can't tell when it's happening. So, yeah, I would love to see more up-to-date data being harvested by the people that are collecting it.
And you're launching a new project similar to this next month. Can you tell us about that?
Right, correct. So I've been working with New America with a fellowship, and what we're going to be starting next month is launching an opioid mapping initiative, and really it's just be bringing together local governments that are already doing this. So some of those problems that we just described of mapping where the deaths are, mapping them in real time, And I'm just getting them all together, and we're going to learn from each other more on best practices. I'll be documenting more. So if other local governments want to jump on to see how they can do things, they can learn from these kind of people that are leading the front in this. So working with about 10 to 12 local governments across the country that are already doing this.
And if people want to be involved or just learn more about it or add their story, where's the best place for them to go?
So I have a Twitter handle, RX Heroin Maps. And then on Facebook, there's a Facebook page called Celebrating Lost Loved Ones. I've been putting the information on those two places. There will be a website for the opioid mapping initiative in a couple weeks.
Well, Jeremiah, thank you so much for joining us. I love what you're doing at New America. New America is a great place. I love that they have this fellowship. Or will you be doing something else? I know you're the Public Interest Technology Fellow. Is this the only project you'll be working on, or will there be other projects in the future?
So New America has a whole group of fellows working in public interest technology. They're all doing really fascinating things to, just really help move along to make the nation a better place. But my role for this is really to work specifically within the opioid mapping initiative.
Well, thank you so much. Jeremiah Linderman is a software engineer, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, feedback time. We don't get many of these. We got a voicemail, and it's about Verizon's new limited, unlimited plan that we talked about last week. Voicemail, take it away.
Hi, Megan and Jason. On episode 1837, a couple of days ago, you guys were talking about how Verizon was telling people they needed to figure out how to limit their own contract that they signed with Verizon. And what I was curious about is when the FTC is going to get involved. Number one, all these carriers have unlimited as not unlimited. And number two, that sounds like a bait and switch. People are even, this past week signing up for Verizon's unlimited plan. And then within a week being told, hey, you have to change it and limit it. So the other thing I was wanting to know, or that we shouldn't expect that Verizon would keep that anyway, because it seems that every 6 months they have their new plans that they're trying to push on people. So anyway, I was just wondering when the FTC was going to get involved. Talk to you later. Love the show. Bye.
I mean, we'll see if that happens. The FTC was involved, sued AT&T basically back in 2014 for a similar reason of what you're talking about, for its marketing of limited, unlimited, data throttling, all that stuff. And essentially that led to the appeals court throwing the case out last year. And I mean, depending on where net neutrality rules, what happens to net neutrality rules as we enter this new era of the FCC, it's possible that it could end up being revisited, but I don't know. Something tells me probably not.
Yeah, I feel like they have so many, lawyers working for them that they've hidden the kind of, saying that, oh, it's really limited. Shh.
Right. Have their way to talk around it. Yeah. That's kind of the problem. I think a big problem here. So.
TNT's fan of the day is Pete Pecha, who sent this pic to our email at tnt@twit.tv saying he loves the show.
Let's see it all the way down there. Yeah, pretty good aim.
Yeah. So see how easy that is? I think he literally just picked up his phone and took a picture while he was watching. You could do that too. Show us how you watch or listen. We also like videos. Does not have to have pets in it, although we like when there are pets.
That helps.
Record a video, take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it to Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it.
I think Pete also does what we should all probably do, because Zuckerberg does it, and tapes up the camera on his laptop.
Oh, is that what he was? Maybe,
I think so. I think that's a sticker. Is that a Koopa shell? I'm not sure.
Well, but then except we can also see in his closet and see his trophies. And
this is what happens when you send it in. We start picking apart all of the details of the image.
Yeah.
All right. We're just happy you sent that in. So thank you, Pete. All right. Today is the day that Amazon finalized its acquisition of premium grocery chain Whole Foods. And if, like me, you did your grocery shopping yesterday, you might wish that you'd waited a day. Whole Foods discounted prices on many of their products throughout stores, upwards of 43% off in some cases. The chain that's commonly referred to, and I'm sure employees hate this, as Whole Paycheck, might someday be re-nicknamed still more than other grocery chains, but less than Whole Paycheck. It's not as catchy, but but it's probably true.
No, I mean, I can't wait to go in there and compare prices. When I was in Whole Foods last week, I somehow forgot to take all my groceries off and put them on the thing, and I just like pushed my cart through as if it was like the new Amazon store where you just walk through, and like I pushed my cart through, and I was like, I'm ready to Apple Pay, and he's like, you have to run the stuff through first, and I was like, oh.
They're not Trader Joe's where you like push the cart up to the edge and then they just unload it for you.
Yeah, that's true.
They
Maybe
do that at Trader Joe's. They don't do that at
yeah,
Whole Foods.
soon Trader Joe's will be also owned by Amazon. Mark my words.
Yeah, probably. So.
It's scary for the grocery industry because the big headline was that Amazon doesn't need to make money on groceries. They don't. They make money on the cloud, or I think that's where they make money somehow. I think the cloud.
Yeah,
but
this is a really valuable acquisition in the sense that they now have all of these like perfectly positioned in affluent neighborhoods distribution points, for their products. And I think that, I think a lot of people are saying that's the big gain here. So Amazon can afford to knock down these prices. I'll be curious to see what knocking down prices in a Whole Foods is compared to the way a lot of people are used to shopping and how it compares. But I mean, we've shopped Whole Foods for years. We've just taken it. Even though it's Whole Paycheck, we just take it. We figured out how to shop there, and we feel fine with it. So I know we're gonna reap the benefit of this.
Well, they set it up so that it's like really nice to shop there. Like they know what makes you happy, Jason Howell, and they've done it. Yes. Yeah, just like the groceries all laid out, and so one of my first jobs was I worked in the meat counter at a Whole Foods. And that was back when you would I have two kale anecdotes. Back then in the 90s, the early 90s, late 80s, you used to use kale to lay the meat on. Like that was what it was used for. Like you didn't eat it. You just made the meat pretty. You laid kale out and then you stuck the slab of beef on top of it, and then you thought you were buying the cow right from, off the grass.
It felt fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have a tweet from Kurt Wagner. He said this is real. It will go down in history as the meat tweet. That's what I called it. I asked, is that meat tweet really real, Kurt Wagner from Recode? And he said it is. So apparently they're advertising all over the place. Instead of kale, somebody formed the words prime in the ground beef.
Oh my goodness!
And it's not even like prime rib. They should have at least like shaped prime rib in the shape of the word prime.
This is visual proof that there is such a thing as taking something just a little too far.
Yeah.
We don't need to spell words with our ground beef. Please don't do that.
No. And my other kale anecdote is Paul, who often sends me little videos made by Diddy. Remember the Diddy?
Oh, yeah.
He said that he heard.
I remember yeah.
He was listening to Padre and Leo talk about this Amazon business over the weekend, and that caused him to make this little video that I would like to play with sound, if that's all right with you, Josh.
Stew for dinner is what it said there at the very end.
Yes, it's true. The professionalism and technical expertise of this show is unrivaled. That is true.
We bring you nothing but the best of technical proficiency. All right. So are you going to shop at Whole Foods then?
Yes.
Begrudgingly. They have a tower of Amazon Echo Dots now.
Farm Fresh Echo Dots.
Farm Fresh. It's true. They do. Go into the store and they have the display for Echoes now. So, that's interesting. Anyways, yes, free range Echo Dots. TNT records live every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail if you like, 260-TNT-SHOW. We had one of those to play today. It was awesome. And you can also hit us up on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
Hey, subscribe to the show so that you can be the first one to watch at twit.tv/TNT. And please, don't forget to join me on the 10-week digital cleanse on the new screensavers. #digital cleanse. This week we will be purging our cloud storage. And just like a cleanse, there's some things you can eat, like avocados and green tea. There are some files that you can keep that don't count against your storage, and you're going to want to find out what those are. Tweet at me at Megan Maroney.
It's interesting you mentioned avocados. They're on sale at Whole Foods. Anyways, you can afford to buy a house now.
Do you secretly work for Whole Foods on the side?
No. Hiding my name tag. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director and today's featured editor, Josh.
Featured editor, yes.
Yes, you're a featured
That's
editor.
me, and I'll get to do a lot of editing today.
You're welcome. Also, thanks to Burke for helping out in the studio. Thanks to Jammer B. Thanks to our audience. We have an audience today. We're blessed with some folks to watch the show live, which you can do as well. Tickets at twit.tv. And thanks to you, the virtual audience online, for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.